Hi everyone, Cardi B here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of this new Group Therapy album. I was mature for my age, but I was still a child. Here we have what I think is the third full-length LP from this California music collective, consisting of writers, rappers, singers, Jada Grace, Swim, and TJ Online. The last of whom also takes on some production duties with this record, but outside of him, there's a handful of other producers involved throughout the rest of the project. Now, apparently these guys have been grinding in the industry for a while now, both in and out of music, and I'm not surprised because listening to this record, they're sounding pretty seasoned here. Like, this is clearly not their first rodeo, even with the first single I heard from this project, FUNKFEST, which was a pretty exciting and unique clash of post-punk bass lines, driving beats, hype group chants, and some pretty silly but sharp verses throughout the track too. It's a mix of influences and styles that on paper should not work, but in practice with Group Therapy, they somehow do. And yeah, with the rest of the record still to be revealed at the time, I really had no idea what to make of what Group Therapy was going to do on this thing. Was this going to be some kind of weird, experimental rock, rap, pop fusion? But now that I've heard the entire album, Group Therapy is actually more creative and versatile than I could have imagined. Coming away from this record, it's clear that these guys are not just musicians, but students of popular music too, with how effectively they reinterpret and recreate and rehash and recombine so many different ideas. Take the first full track on this thing, for example, American Psycho. We have some dramatic distorted guitars on this track, slowly intensifying rap verses, as well as these piercing auto-tuned vocal harmonies on the hook. The track is a huge show of sound and emotion right at the start of this album. It sounds like a fusion of Brockhampton, but also Kanye's Yeezus. And even if the influences are kind of obvious, I'm pretty stunned at just how hard the chorus goes, and how well the various elements on this track work together without sounding like a hideous mess that's at odds with itself. And of course, with the next track, we have an instant switch up. That would be Smiles, which is a very classy but melancholy piece of jazz rap with these fragmented piano chords a la Kendrick Lamar. But Group Therapy does take a different approach on this track, lyrically and vocally, with a sharp focus on the idea of being depressed, being sad, bottling it up, smiling over the pain, that smile becoming a choker. So the group was really quick to throw us into a very emotional and introspective moment right at the start of this record, and then they're just as quick to throw us into the song Lightspeed, which is actually a super dark and gritty piece of hip house, with thumping kicks, gurgling bass, lots of deadpan spoken word bars throughout the track, and even as the song explodes, it stays pretty moody, like I'm watching the most dramatically lit and serious ballroom dance competition of all time, with a lot of catchy lines and refrains throughout, including I'm on your head, Ice Pack, Life's a Bitch, and She Bite Back. And as if the trio hasn't switched it up enough already on the record, we have How I'm Feeling, which is a really slick combination of soul and pop rap, a smooth and sweet chorus from Jada Grace as well. It's very summertime, it's very driving around, top down, but with lyrics that actually get to the heart of something, plus a really funny refrain to close things out. The song That's My Check, is it my favorite track here? Not necessarily. It's a very young and bouncy, playful piece of TikTok trap. It sounds as trendy and commercial as basically anything else in this lane. And I mean, while it's not my vibe, it's certainly accurate. Lots of other artists have popped off with this sort of thing. Why not Group Therapy, I guess? Given everything the group has delivered thus far on this record, I'm not really surprised that they would go for a track or two with some chart potential. What is surprising to me though is the song Nasty, which actually sounds like a chart topper from the 2000s. Maybe an imaginary one. It's like if you took a few alt rappers from today and made them collaborate with Pharrell's NERD, but then you somehow also had Timbaland on the beat too, with some hits of foreign percussion and strings. Plus, one of the most hilarious and unhinged verses on the entire record shows up on this track. The versatility madness continues deeper into the track list, but somehow this thing still comes across cohesive as an album, even as the trio is bringing break beats and flares of industrial hip-hop, as well as maybe some hyper-pop touches on the vocals with Hot, maybe even a sad little acoustic cut that is slightly Frank Ocean-esque on Club Song, which is very much not a club song, at least sonically. The way the guitars and vocals come together on this track, the whole thing sounds like a tender moment during a live-action Disney drama, and I mean that comparison in the best way possible. Meanwhile, Peak is one of the loveliest and grooviest moments on this project, with watery keys, a melancholy atmosphere, and these sparse little vocal hits that feel like something out of a Drake beat. But then behind that, you have the peppy kicks that you would get from maybe like a Philly club tune. Come to think of it, this track kind of feels like what you would get if Honestly Nevermind didn't suck, with a slick little R&B style chorus cool down that somehow doesn't derail the whole thing. And just goes to show how much Group Therapy are just musical alchemists. Now, I do think the record hits a bit of a lull past this point. The following TrunkPoppers.com, while not a terrible track, does kind of feel like if Chance the Rapper's Big Day had a good track on it and that got cut out and was left on the cutting room floor. This is that extra. I think that's the best description I could give it. Then you have Help parts 1 and 2 respectively, which come across like a couple of weird experimental cuts where the trio is just trying a bunch of half-baked ideas and weaving them together, doing some kooky shit on some Steve Lacy-esque bedroom rock, some R&B fusion, some weirdo trap, some off-kilter antisocial boom bap. It sounds like several different songs all kind of colliding into each other at once, and while it's not super well groomed or carefully crafted, it's neat that the trio can take even some odds and ends here and turn them into something workable. There are still some bangers to come toward the back end of the album. We have a DYSBF, or Do Your Shit Best Friend, which sounds like a little cipher happening amongst a very large group of young people. I feel old saying that, but still, that is what it is. Do your shit, best friend, do your shit. With some fun little verses laced in between those that are quite funny, and see Group Therapy not taking themselves too seriously. Which, love that versatility, that emotional versatility as well, because there are moments where the trio does come across legitimately miffed or pissed, like they're getting to the core of something really significant or introspective and serious, but then in other times they're just kind of screwing around and sounding great doing that too. Then to further illustrate my point, we have the closing track, Still Alive, which is an aspirational cut that's not just about everything the group has done to get to this point and the potential growth they could see from this moment forward in their careers, but it's also a track of survival and hoping to be meant for more than just, as it's said on the track, a life that's just shy of the gutter. Between those words and the subtle gospel influences throughout the track, there's something truly heavenly and divine about this cut. I love the little outro, the encouraging outro at the very finish of the song, and I think there's just something divine and heavenly about this being the ending for the record. But yeah, really fun and dynamic and entertaining, well-crafted album from this trio. Not the most unique because, again, I think a lot of the places that Group Therapy pulls from are quite contemporary and quite obvious, but these three definitely bring a massive amount of talent to the table and combine their very clear influences in some pretty unique ways. Not to mention they are very much jacks of all trades and are just doing a little bit of everything so well, and dishing out a lot of great songs, most importantly great songs with very good performances and good production in the process. Feeling a light to decent 8 on this one. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, music forever.